I'm Connor Old and welcome back to another episode of Old's Oscar Countdown. And this week it's going to be a really fun episode. We're going to be looking at the main topic, which is the Best Supporting Actress predictions, and looking at that category, the final acting category, before we go into a little bit more of the technical stuff, director and cinematography and things like that down the line. But as we get further into the Oscar season, we're going to see a lot more award shows, so stay tuned for things like Golden Globe nominations predictions, Golden Globe predictions, reactions, talking about the SAGs, PGAs, and other award shows that eventually affect the Oscars and the Oscar race. I'm going to be giving some more time to those this year, so you get some more in-depth and making these episodes a little bit longer. And then we're also going to do is a bold dark horse predictions. This is going to be a lot of fun. Predictions that I'm not exactly 100% confident that these are my final predictions, but predictions I could definitely see happening that maybe not a lot of people aren't talking about. Predictions that, could surprise, but you'll hear them here first, at least my sort of dark horse predictions here category. But starting off with every show, I like to talk about the rising movies and the falling movies. These are just movies that are either coming into their own in terms of the Oscar conversation, in terms of they're building a little bit of momentum, a little bit of buzz, versus movies that are falling out of the conversation. Movies that maybe we once thought were going to get some nominations, but now less so are going out of the conversation. It's going to be a quick one this week because there's not a lot of changes, I think, so far to the Oscar race, but it is notable that The Irishman is releasing in select theaters this weekend. I was able to see it, this previous weekend I was able to see it. Now it's going to be coming out on Netflix in a couple of weeks, I believe the 27th. So that, it's actually going to be great for Netflix because right now there's just a lot of buzz because people are seeing it in theaters for the first time, and the film lovers are really going out to see it and are having positive reactions, and it's long, but people seem to be enjoying it, and so I enjoyed it a lot, really too. So this really 3.5 hour long epic, but very much meditative gangster movie, very much sort of a different sort of less, different than Goodfellas in the best of ways. But it's also notable that it'll have sort of its conversation now, but then when it releases on Netflix, when a large, more people get to see it because they don't want to, it's only in select theaters. Some people may not be able to see it in their hometown. So then people will start talking about it again. So we'll have a couple, I think, of risings, but as of right now, I think The Irishman is doing quite well. And then following, I just want to briefly talk about Ad Astra. This is a movie that maybe, we thought would be in the conversation. Every year there sort of seems to be sort of this maybe a tour-driven space film. What last year would be First Man, the year before that Blade Runner 2049, the year before that Arrival, the year before that I would say maybe The Martian. But so there's, and the year before Interstellar, the year before that Gravity. I mean, this decade is sort of every year almost, we have sort of this big epic space movie that studios really want to gamble on, and very much auteur driven, which is very unique and actually been some of my favorite movies of the decade, really. But that being said, I think that, while it's maybe poised like some of its predecessors in a similar genre to get some of these Oscars, I don't think it will. This category has sort of been dominated, at least that I thought, has always dominated the visual effects, whether, First Man last year, the year before that, Blade Runner 2049, the year before that, wasn't Arrival, was it? Anyways, but I know Interstellar 1 year before that, a couple years before that. So there's always these sort of space movies that always win that sort of realistic space movies that win the visual effects. This year I don't think it's going to get that. I think it's obviously going to go to The Irishman most likely. And then, we'll get in for some of the sounds. Yes, maybe, Brad Pitt's going to definitely campaign for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And the film just has been losing a little bit of steam in terms of the general conversation. So maybe it gets a couple tech. I don't even have for cinematography, even though it's done by the brilliant Hoyt van Hoytema. So I don't have him in there. So maybe only a couple of nominations, if any at all. So Ad Astra, unfortunately, is falling, despite it being what I thought was a really good movie. But jumping over now into my bold dark horse predictions category. Like I said, these are predictions that I'm not betting down on, doubling down on, so don't roast me in the comments below if I get any of these wrong. But these are predictions that I could see happening that maybe people aren't thinking about until they're coming out a little bit out of left field and may shock you. A little hot take a section of this video, I guess you'd say. My first one is going to be Saoirse Ronan wins for Best Lead Actress for Little Woman. Little Woman is a film that really seems like a great combination of both critics love it and sort of has an Oscar cred in a lot of ways. The critics have been really loving this film. It has sort of their great players, whether it be sort of, these breakout actresses of Florence Pugh, of course Timothée Chalamet, and Saoirse Ronan, maybe, the future of Hollywood movies, and of course Greta Gerwig. Is someone who they've always really loved, whether it be, in No Bomb X Frances Ha, and then of course a couple of years ago in Lady Bird. Bird, so that's notable. And there's also very much an Oscar movie. Greta Gerwig sort of had her breakout movie in Lady Bird, of which she got nominated, and that was sort of her acceptance into the Academy. Now she's coming back with a period film, which we know they love, which is still modern, sort of ends on a happier note, which Ringer critic Sean Fennessy pointed out that that's actually really been helpful recently, is that, you know, movies that don't end on this sort of bleak tone, that actually end on this sort of serendipitous sort of congratulatory moment, whether it be Green Book, whether it be Shape of Water. Those are the movies that sort of have been doing well, and this one sort of maybe fits that mold. I haven't seen it, so I can't comment on it yet, but that's important. So I think it's a strong Best Picture contender. I also think that, you know, this category is still open. She's definitely that right age of being ingenue. If she's been in the future, she's been nominated 4 times now, or maybe it's only been 3, and this will be her 4th one. She's only 25 or whatever, so she's really an exciting young actress, and they love her a lot. And I think that this one could sort of build a campaign. The problem being, of course, that it's an ensemble. But I haven't seen the movie because of it. I mean, you know, it is her story in a lot of ways, and then there is a supporting cast, of course, as well. Sort of depends on who stands out of the movie when you're coming out of it. We may be talking about that a little bit later. My next prediction is going to be that Todd Phillips gets a Best Director nomination for Joker. As we're going to talk about next week when I talk about the Best Director predictions, I think this category is still kind of wide open in terms of nominations. I think you're going to have your sort of stable guys, Martin Scorsese and Quentin Tarantino. I think Bong Joon-ho gets in there, sort of a really well-respected director. But I think Todd Phillips can surprise, you know. Without a doubt, I think it's hard to argue that Joker is not the film of the year. It's about to cross $1 billion at the box office. It is, you know, I think they're calling it the sort of most profitable comic book movie of all time. It's a massive hit everywhere across the world. People who, you know, the critics may not have enjoyed it as much, but the audiences seem to really be loving it. And even directors who have sort of been following have really enjoyed it. Greta Gerwig recently said she really liked Joker. Sean Baker, who did the Florida Project, really loved Joker. So these directors are really sort of rallying behind Todd Phillips and his vision and his sort of incredible stance. It's so different from all those other movies, which has helped someone like Peter Farrelly with Green Book, you know, even. Now, I know he didn't get in for Best Director. That is notable, but I still think that there's still a narrative that helped Peter Farrelly and eventually Green Book win Best Picture, of sort of this director who is one way, you know, very much a comedy director, and now sort of transitioning into more serious stuff. And the Joker is definitely sort of a mark of, you know, I would consider, you know, a really sort of serious filmmaker with a lot to say on his mind. So the Joker, you know, watch out for that. I still believe in it right now, and I think that, you know, if people really love what Todd Phillips did with this, I think he could definitely sneak in, especially with those, at least in my opinion, the sort of 4 slot and the 5th slot, which could have be, at least right now, could be replaced. Another maybe bold prediction of mine is that Marriage Story will disappoint at the Oscars. I think that, you know, it was sort of really hyped on, whether it be Telluride and TIFF, but it's maybe not as popular as we instantly think. You know, it's the divorced, you know, drama of the year, the Kramer versus Kramer, I guess you would call it, which, you know, I think it will resonate with a lot of people. But it doesn't necessarily have a singular vision, which is maybe has me thinking that Noah Baumbach may slip out of the Best Director race, especially as the director race is almost morphing to who was directed the most. You know, if someone like Sam Mendes can slip in at the very last second because he's done this incredible one long take that was so incredibly hard to do, versus sort of more of a simpler performance-based drama. Noah Baumbach has only been nominated once before as well, I believe, for The Squid and the Whale, so wasn't even nominated for something like Francis R. Meyerowitz stories. So that is notable. I also think Scarlett Johansson is not as much of a lock as some people think. I think that it's just a possibility that, you know, I believe in the power of Jojo Rabbit. I think that, you know, if that's a serious contender, it will also get an acting nomination. So that movie's best chance, I think, is actually Scarlett Johansson for Best Supporting Actress. So maybe they put her votes there and they don't give it to her for Marriage Story here. Or maybe she splits the vote with the Jojo Rabbit lovers and she doesn't get in either one. That's very possible as well. You know, so if Noah Baumbach doesn't get director and Scarlett doesn't get actress, I think that really, really hurts the film. Because right now people are considering it as a Best Picture contender. Right now I'm not exactly sure of that, and I'm not super confident in saying that right now, because I think it could disappoint come Oscar night. And then another, my final sort of bold dark horse prediction would be Benedict Cumberbatch gets in for Best Supporting Actor for 1917, the surprise nomination of the year. And I think every year there's actually been a late a film or a movie that was released late, or just an acting surprise, that the Oscars don't exactly do every 4 categories exactly the same as SAG and the Globes and you know what BAFTA's been doing. They do like to do things a little bit different. They always try to do, you know, last year was Marina de Tavira, which was sort of out of nowhere surprise, like, oh wow, they must really like Roma. And the year before that was Leslie Manville for Phantom Thread. So they like Phantom Thread enough so they want to nominate Leslie Manville. Or even something, you know, Ruth Negga for Loving, for example. Just something that was in the conversation but then left it, then maybe comes back. And I think Benedict Cumberbatch is, you know, a potential candidate for this. If 1917 sort of comes in late and surprises people and people love it. I haven't seen the movie, so chances are he's not going to have a recurring role. He's just going to show up once and hopefully leave enough of an impact and then come back. He's an established, well-liked British actor. You know, he's been nominated before for The Imitation Game. He hasn't been nominated since, but I think there is respect for him within the industry. And if they really like that film, they may want to give it an acting nominee, and that may sort of surprise late. There's always going to be one surprise acting nominee, so you have to sort of factor that and keep that in mind. So I'm going to predict right now as Benedict Cumberbatch sneaks into that Best Supporting Actor nomination. Something that I don't think is on a lot of people's radars, but I think is a possibility. And if anyone from that movie gets nominated, it's most likely going to be him. So, jumping over now into my Best Supporting Actress predictions. Despite me maybe ragging on Marriage Story before, my #1 pick right now is going to be Laura Dern for Marriage Story.
Part of what we're going to do together is tell your story.
Did you dye your hair again?
No, this is me. You don't like it?
Is it shorter? I prefer it longer, but...
How are you doing?
So while I have a little bit of hesitation for Marriage Story, I do have full confidence in Laura Dern, the actress, the personality, person that people really like. And I also believe in her sort of timeline for events, and her lead up to the Oscars is actually really nice. Starting off with the first televised awards, the Golden Globe Awards, where she's really beloved at the Globes. She's won 4 times before. She won last year with Big Little Lies for both an Emmy and a Golden Globe. So she's definitely been on people's minds. I think, you know, she's only been nominated twice. She's sort of an actress that people really like, and she's been in a lot of great movies. In 2014, she was nominated for Wild, and then ever since then, I think she's been doing really interesting choices and interesting movies, whether it be The Tale or 99 Homes. I mean, she has some, or even, you know, something like Big Little Lies, which even though it's TV, has earned her a lot of, recognition. I think that, you know, she is someone that is, from my understanding, it's sort of her role is hard to explain within Marriage Story unless you've seen the movie, so I don't want to sort of jump into that too much. But it seems like, you know, just from the trailers, that it's going to be a very emotional movie. And it's going to be a movie that Laura Dern will have at least, you know, one sort of Oscar-y type speech. I just think that, you know, right now there's not sort of a solid threat. There's still some reservations I have with some of the other people. I think Laura Dern has a sort of right role. It's not a transformative role, but neither are sort of any of the other contenders, so that will help her. If you do believe in the power of Marriage Story, at least it is a best picture possibility. You know, Laura Dern will also get in as well. And even if not, you know, whether it be something like The Favorite last year or 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri the year before that, the movies that don't win Best Picture, they'll still get the acting wins as well. You know, they'll still get the sort of love there as well. So it's not, you know, entirely impossible to, you know, get something like a Laura Dern to win Best for Marriage Story, and then it doesn't win Best Picture, and maybe that's its only win of the night. And right now, as it's sort of playing out and sort of coming out, I think that, you know, this is probably Marriage Story's best chance to win anything. So if the film does do well in nominations night and does get in, I think that Laura Dern, that will sort of be its award. That in a year, in an Oscars sort of decade where they really like to spread the awards out, after noticing over the past few years, I think that Laura Dern will get in for this category and ultimately win. But my next pick is going to be Florence Pugh for Little Woman. This is only due to the fact that people have been coming out with rave reviews of her performance, of someone that is really maybe the standout of the movie, which maybe here my previous prediction of Saoirse Ronan winning, but who knows. Similarly, you know, this could be a situation where if people really love Little Women, this is its win ultimately. And if it is going to be a Best Picture contender, maybe it wins Adapted Screenplay and then it gets Florence Pugh and then gets, you know, Best Picture, for example. That's a possibility as well. But also because I think that, you know, in the Best Supporting Actor category, we noted that a lot of times you have to be the almost co-lead of the movie. You have to have a lot of screen time, and that always helps supporting actresses. Even something like Alicia Vikander for The Danish Girl. The supporting categories, if you really have a central role in the film, it always helps to be Best Supporting, but also you have a lot more chances to really show off your acting ability, and you're really memorable when people think of that movie. They think of you as well. But if you're an ensemble like you are in this, you really have to have sort of a juicy role and you have to really sort of stand out. And seemingly that's what Florence Pugh does. I can't comment on that directly, but I think that it's also notable that in a category that's really lacking on Best Picture nominations, this is a strong category to maybe provide some upsets. And I think this is sort of a solid lock for Florence Pugh because she is in that Best Picture, most likely the Best Picture nominee. Whereas, I'm not necessarily super confident that someone like The Farewell maybe gets in, or Bombshell, or Hustlers, which maybe will tell some of my next picks. But I think that Florence Pugh, with that help of the Best Picture in a category that's lacking in the Best Picture nominees, that sort of solidifies her in my mind. I believe Florence Pugh, being sort of this new upcoming actress, will get that nominee. It's also notable that she's already primed up. I believe she's going to be sort of maybe the next Black Widow, is what it's seeming upcoming. So she has sort of this transition, where there'll be someone like Brie Larson who does the Marvel movies. She seems to be like this young actress who does this smaller indie stuff and is really trying to propel herself into sort of stardom in that sense. So Florence Pugh, know her name because it seems like she's going to be in our lives for a little bit, at least, if you're a lover of movies like I am. My next pick is going to be Jennifer Lawrence for Hustlers. I think this is just one of the best performances of the year. She's dynamic, she's sexy, she's very mysterious and alluring. As soon as you think you get to know her, she sort of distances herself and makes her even more unpredictable. It's a really dynamic performance, and people are really blown away with her, especially myself. She hasn't been this good since Out of Sight, and The Hustlers has been doing good. It's a surprise box office hit of the year, which the Oscars sort of love that story. And I think The Hustlers will do good at the Globes. I think it gets in for Best Comedy Musical. I also think Constance Wu will be able to slip in, and then of course Jennifer Lawrence for Best Supporting Actress. And there's a scenario where she does win the Globes because the Globes love their celebrities. But that being said, Laura Dern has won 4 Golden Globes before. She's been on sort of a roll here. So watch out for her. It's not necessarily a slam dunk for Jennifer Lopez for Hustlers, but if she does win something like the Globes, maybe that's a potential opportunity to win for Best Supporting Actress at the Oscars. But I still think there's a little bit of a pop star stigma. She has been acting for a while. She hasn't really been positioning herself into sort of prestige-y type films that even someone like Madonna did or Cher did when they sort of were acting. But we had someone like Lady Gaga last year, another pop star. So, well, you can't really make a direct comparison between the two. I think there is sort of a little bit an outsider factor that maybe helped her with the Globes, but maybe it doesn't help her as much at the Oscars, just in terms of the historical basis and what we've seen before. And then my next pick is actually one that could either get in or could either win. I mean, it's kind of the Al Pacino Irishman situation, if you saw last week's video. And this is going to be Margot Robbie for Bombshell. Now, I think that Margot Robbie's at the perfect age for her to win an Oscar. I think she's really defined herself leading movies, whether it be box office hits of like Suicide Squad or The Surprisingly Did Well, Focus. Then of course I, Tonya, a couple of years ago. She's really just been positioning herself as one of the, if not the sort of the star of the moment. She's the sort of most recognizable lead actress, and her face is on a lot of posters, and she's driving a lot of movies in a lot of ways. And in something like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood earlier this year, she had Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, and Margot Robbie. Those were the names. She was in that sort of class of actors, and I think that's what Hollywood definitely sees her as right now. So she seems like this is the perfect year. But the problem being is that I'm not 100% sure she gets nominated at all. That's not because she's not good in any of the movies. I just think that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a strong film. I think that more people will see that film than they will see Bombshell. So I think there could be a chance of vote splitting. I really do. I think that she gets some votes for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. She gets some votes for Bombshell, but it's not enough for either one. Now, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is very much more of a symbolic role. She doesn't have a lot of dialogue and lines. Versus Bombshell, which is very much the emotional crying scene, kind of very much traditional actory kind of the role. So theoretically, you would say, okay, the one has more of the Oscar scenes, more of the role, more sort of maybe impact, you would say. You would give it to Bombshell, but Bombshell is not necessarily a Best Picture nominee. So, if Florence Pugh and Laura Dern get in, then those are nominees from theoretically 2 Best Picture nominees. Do we need a third? Maybe, maybe not. But I think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is strong. I think some people will just see that movie and won't see Bombshell, and then potentially split her vote. I think there's a possibility that she gets in for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'm not 100% sure right now. It seems like people are sort of campaigning her and pushing her for a little bit of a Bombshell. We won't really know until we see something like the Golden Globes if she does get in for Bombshell there, and then people sort of follow the trend of, okay, we're going to go for Bombshell with her, and then there's a potential chance for her to win. I'm just not exactly sure as of right now in this moment. So watch out, she could potentially win, but she potentially also couldn't get nominated at all. That's a factor that we have to check in on as well. And then my final pick is going to be Shuzhen Zhao for The Farewell. This is the sort of indie hit, like I said, of the summer. I think it's going to do well at the Oscars, get some of these sort of fifth nominations because of how well just liked it is. Whether it be Lulu Wang, the writer-director, she's been campaigning, she's been doing a lot of stuff, whether it be Q&As, and just being active within the film community and really promoting this film a lot. I think Awkwafina can also get it in as well. And I think this is a movie that if people do see it, they really will like it. And Shuzhen, I don't think is maybe the standout of the film. I think that it's almost a nomination for the supporting cast, which is so great and varied. And she does have a seminal role within the film. If you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about. But it's maybe not the most showy role. That being said, they do like their foreign actresses that sort of surprise, maybe at a later age. Isabelle Huppert is a legend, but they still had never nominated her, I don't believe, until she got nominated, almost won theoretically with Elle. And even something like Maria Dettaviera for Roma last year, or Elisa Aparicio for Roma last year. These sort of foreign actresses that they don't know that really sort of surprise them for the very first time, and have such an incredible commanding screen presence that they just want to nominate her. But those scenarios sort of happened, I think, mostly due with their films or due to their legacy. So this one is maybe not a super confident pick, but maybe more of a pick that I'd really like to see. But going to my honorable mentions, my number one is actually going to be Meryl Streep for Laundromat. I think this is one that people have sort of been counting out. It's almost a dark horse prediction that it gets in. It may slip in as well, ultimately because recently I've been betting on Meryl Streep, whether it be The Post, whether it be Florence Foster Jenkins, whether it be whatever. Meryl Streep gets in at the Oscars. It's what she does. Even when her movies aren't that good, she gets in. I mean, she's been nominated 5 times this decade. I mean, she's been nominated 20 plus times. She's won 3 times before. She's an Oscar legend. You know about it. But The Laundromat, it was sort of ragged on by critics. When I saw it on Netflix and I finally caught up with it, I thought it was actually pretty good. I thought she was the standout of the movie. She definitely has these emotional scenes. She's kind of the through line throughout the film. So while, yes, she's the best supporting actress, she has sort of a commanding role throughout the film and sort of a memorable role throughout the film, I think. So I think that she could sort of surprise, and never want to count out Meryl Streep. And in a year where I'm not super confident maybe in Shuzhen Zhao, and maybe Margot Robbie doesn't get in, there's got to be someone like Meryl Streep, just a classic, standard, amazing actress, just gets in. Just give Meryl a nomination because we love her so much. And then another one I want to talk about is Annette Bening for The Report. This is maybe one of the ones that people may have been surprised not to see on my list, just because I think The Report is not a movie that's been talked about. I don't think it has a lot of buzz. It came out of Sundance pretty hot, but then sort of has fizzled out. I think it's releasing in a couple weeks, but it's going to get buried by something like The Irishman, which is also going to be releasing at a similar time in terms of on-demand. It's also an Amazon Prime movie. That's sort of a company that we're not super sure about, at least I think, about its future in terms of does it really want to win an Oscar. It got its sort of Manchester by the Sea campaign, but ever since then, I feel like it's sort of been hit or miss. So that's notable. It's good to say, though, that she is playing a real-life person, the current senator of California, along with Kamala Harris, Dianne Feinstein. So she is someone that is recognizable. She has this transformation. She has a wig on. She has these big glasses. She was playing a real-life person they love. Annette Bening, she's been nominated 4 times, but she definitely seems like an actress that, okay, it's her time. She definitely should win. So there could be a campaign for her. I'm just not super confident on the film getting a lot of buzz. Maybe it helps Adam. If people have seen it, it's going to help Adam Driver, and I'm not sure if it's going to foster enough love for Annette to get in ultimately. But even like I said, the Oscars like her, but they didn't nominate her for 20th Century Woman, which was a bit of a surprise. They haven't nominated her in 8 years, so maybe they don't love her as the way we maybe think they do. And they did like 20th Century Woman. They gave it a Best Original Screenplay nomination, but maybe not. Maybe love for Annette is not there yet. I'm just not super confident on the film ultimately. And then just want to talk about briefly before Scarlett, like I talked about before, Scarlett Johansson for Jojo Rabbit. She theoretically maybe doesn't get in for Mary's story. Maybe her support goes here. Maybe she surprises the sort of initial wave of voting, whether it be SAG or the Golden Globes. They both of them give a Best Supporting Actress nomination to Scarlett Johansson for Jojo Rabbit, solidifying Jojo Rabbit's chances. She could slip in there. Maybe that's her movie this year. Who knows? I still think there's support for that movie. I think that could maybe hurt or help Scarlett. It just depends on how the race pans out. But that's about it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you comment below. Let me know some of your predictions yourself. Maybe give me some bold dark horse predictions. Do you think Antonio Banderas is going to win best lead actor? Do you think Leonardo DiCaprio maybe misses? That's a potential one that I could see happening as well. You know, let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And then your thoughts about my predictions. What did I get wrong? What did I get right? That's about it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. And until next time, stay tuned.